Divya, what are some of those things that folks need to keep in mind if they want to, give the community the spirit that it needs, the energy that it needs?
Yeah, thank you so much, Bart, firstly having me here, and it's so nice to catch up with you after meeting you in Valencia, and I hope I get to see you soon again. First off, this is not to say that technical skills are not important. Of course, we are all working in technology, so it's obvious that you do need to have those technical skills. But coming from various backgrounds and coming from various cultures and various parts of the world, it's difficult. I understand it's difficult that to connect with individuals where they are at, or meet them where they are at any given point in time. So it's essential that as contributors or as new entrants to the community, as much as tech is important, we also place importance on the soft skills side of things as well. Now, what do I mean by soft skills? I really think it would be more to do with the qualitative aspects like behavioral skills, how you interact with other people in the community, being empathetic, being considerate of other people's situation, and in general being just a decent person. In fact, I think it's the Kubernetes code of conduct to be nice to one another. And I think it's one of the best things that you can re-emphasize wherever you go, because at the end of the day, we're all just humans interacting with one another and powering the tech that is actually helping us move forward, right? So I believe that even the soft skill side of things really matters when it comes to interactions within the community and your way forward within the community. I hope that makes sense.
No, I think it does. I think we can drill down a little bit, because really quickly, where are you from?
I'm from India.
But which part of India?
I'm from the western part of India, but actually my roots are in the southern part.
Okay, so you already, you can say have that empathy of different influences from different places, because India is quite a big country with lots of people.
Yeah.
And no, but I'm just saying is that, okay, so you're from there, but in your experience, how many different countries and cultures have you interacted with in your experience in the cloud native family, if you want to call it that way?
I think I've practically interacted with at least one person from each continent. I was never a good geography student, but I think as far as I can make that claim, I think I've interacted with at least one person from each continent, and maybe even more, to be honest. Of course, the numbers tilt slightly higher when you talk about the Americas and Europe side, because of the number of contributors that come in from these regions. But I think interacted from people down under in Australia and New Zealand, as well as people as far as Russia and even Africa for that matter. So I think the only continent left for me is Antarctica, but I'm not sure if there are any.
And if you are in Antarctica and you want to contribute, please get in touch so that Divya and I can check off the list. No, I agree though, and for me, that's one of the most beautiful things about this, and particularly as a non-technical person, but someone who really enjoys experiencing other people's cultures, learning about the places where they live. It's extremely enriching. And I always tell people, it's like, as quickly as you can, try to interact with people from different places and have an open mind and an open heart. Listen as much and listen, really, really listen. And there's so much that you can get out from that. It doesn't mean you're abandoning your own culture because of interacting with people from another one. You're giving them a gift, and giving them the gift of giving. And there's so much you can get in return. Could you maybe touch on a couple of specific examples of people that you've worked with from different places and things that you've learned?
Oh yeah, I could actually. So there's a bunch of stuff that I've learned in terms of I think it's more to do with how I should be interacting with people from different cultures. For example, I've learned to be more appreciative of time offs in the European context. So before this, I was of course working in a multinational company and then a bank. But working with Susan, working in the cloud native ecosystem, very closely with Europeans and with Americans and with other parts of the world, I have developed a better understanding of how people take their time off. And I realized that in the case of Europeans, they really, really love their time off. And they do not, they are really particular about taking their time off in the months between July and I guess the start of October is what I have noticed. And I've realized that that's just maybe one aspect of it. But coming to the linguistic aspect, wherein I obviously have had linguistic barriers when speaking with people who are not as who do not have English as their primary language. Even my language, my native language is not English. I primarily speak Hindi, Marathi, Malayalam, and a bunch of other Indian languages. So when it comes to speaking to another person who probably is on a similar level or does not have the proficiency in English, it's difficult. It's difficult, obviously, but it's also a learning experience for me because I personally get to understand from what perspective they're coming from, and to commute and how I can get my message across in the simplest way possible. And that's not something I would have considered had I been working in my traditional setup where I had to just interact with fellow countrymen. And that was the case for a lot of my day job interactions. So open source has technically made me a better person because I am able to empathize with people, put myself in their shoes, and drill it down to the simplest possible so that I can connect. Another example I can probably give, because I realize that this might be too much of an overkill. I tend to interact a lot with students, and that is after being a speaker on CNCF students and on the student track at KubeCon. A lot of students who enter into the ecosystem, they are not very well versed with all the technical nitty-gritties, right? Just like for people whose primary language is not English, it's a very similar case in that these students do not have the knowledge of the ecosystem, so they struggle with asking the right questions. So during my one-on-ones or during this these chats or whatever avenues we have these conversations on, I've realized that actually simplifying it to the bare minimum and asking them the right questions and enabling them to ask me the right questions is a different art in itself. Because if you enable a person to ask better questions and equip them with resources that can help them ask better questions, there's nothing like it. You're giving them like a guidebook for life. So those are like the three different examples. But I don't know if that makes sense.
No, definitely does. And I think, there's a lot that we can unpack here. And understanding, going back to the first part that you mentioned about languages, is that someone not speaking English, at the highest level possible is an opportunity for us, like you said, to really focus on our listening skills and build out other skills that we don't necessarily focus on as much.
Yeah.
I think that's once again, is that these community environments really provide a lot of opportunities to give so much to so many, and to be a very kind reminder that despite some of the many horrible things that happen in the world from time to time, that this is an opportunity that we have to be good to each other, to share with each other, to support each other, to help each other grow. And like you said, to sort of leave aside, you said this previously, leave aside the corporate, this is just going to be good for me to get my next. If you treat it that way,
yeah,
people will probably notice because it'd be quite obvious. And that's not really what we're about. And I think an expression you're very familiar with and probably said many times, the concept of paying it forward. Look for these opportunities to give, to mentor, and there are lots of different ways that can happen. One other thing, though, to take the subject of empathy further, something we agreed that we were going to talk about, and we'll definitely be asking Savitha to talk about as well. Savitha, it's your turn to talk now, would be the subject of art and cats. So in your particular case, how do those two subjects matter in a cloud native context?
For me, I'm not a very artistic person. Anybody who knows me knows that I can't draw to save my life. So if you're ever stuck in a situation where you are probably held at gunpoint and you're asked to call one person who can draw, please never call me, because I'm 150% sure that I will not be able to save your life. So if it's a tech problem, maybe I can at least Google and find a solution if I don't know the answer. But if it's art, I am not a very artistic person. Like, I can't draw. I can write. That is art too. I understand that. But if it's specifically drawing, please don't call me. I have, full disclosure, I've made my, parents draw almost all of my drawing assignments in school. So that was how bad my drawing was. So art is, for me, in my case, it would be writing and communicating, because I think communicating is a very, very underappreciated art. In fact, I was reading a book about it recently, and the author there says that communicating effectively is an art, and not many people actually get it right. Writing and reading are often taught in schools as, these primary, in your primary grades. You are, taught your alphabets, you're taught, how to read them and how to write them. But when it comes to talking clearly or writing clearly in a way that you can actually put across your thoughts to another person, that's not something that's taught beyond the grammatical syntax and beyond the actual, formation of, proper prose. How to actually engage an audience, how to actually captivate their attention, and how to retain it. That's not something that's taught in any curriculum, as far as I know, in schools. And to me, that is art. And in the cloud native context, it's extremely important to communicate effectively, because a lot of the communication is asynchronous. Because as many conferences as you attend, or as many Zoom meetings you're a part of, most of your discussions, most of your conversations with fellow community members are going to be asynchronous, meaning they're going to be on Slack or any other public forum. So it's essential that you write and are able to communicate well. I wouldn't say write well in the sense that you need to be the next Shakespeare, but you need to have that flair to actually put your point across. And similarly for, again, it's a part of my profession. I'm not going to say that everybody needs to know how to give a conference talk or give a session, but I feel that's important too, because when you meet another person, or when you meet your fellow community members in a real life setting, and you're delivering a session, or even if it's just a virtual one, I think it's essential that you're able to get to the technical part of it, but also that whatever you're conveying, the audience is able to retain it. Because you could go on for like 15 minutes and talk all you want about a technology without the audience absorbing a single thing. And that's not what you want. So I think it's a balance, because as technical as you get, at some point you are going to have to explain things to someone. If it's not a conference audience, it's probably another community member. And I think having your writing and your speaking skills, I wouldn't say patched down, but improving them is art to me, because I really believe that those are forms of art. And for me, cats are my brief respite from all things technical. My two cats are my brief respite from all things technical in the cloud native side of things. So they are like my alarm clocks. If I sit for way too much in front of the computer, or code for way too long, or have a conference session that goes for way too long, be sure that they're going to come and jump right in front of the screen and express their displeasure, because that's how they are. They don't care. They know very well when I need to stop, and after that, if I don't stop, they take their respective actions. So I think that's my side of the story.
That's great. I think with both those things, mentioning the importance of writing is artistic and no two people do it the same way. And it involves a lot of creativity, and particularly to talk about some of these cloud native concepts that can be relatively intangible or dense or difficult to grasp, and bringing them to life is not something anybody can do. So I think that's a great point. I also think writing it's another way that you can show empathy in terms of because like you said, you're going to be working asynchronously. So you have to be thinking about, based on the words that I'm using, how is the other person going to feel, not just what are they going to think. And then last but not least, how you talked about your cats. I think just a really good reminder for everybody, because particularly for folks getting started, it seems really exciting. I want to be involved in everything. You gotta have some balance. And so like you said, your cats are a healthy way to saying, you know what, you need to take a break. You're going to focus on something else now. And that's a good thing. We don't want people getting burned out. This is something you've talked about a lot. So if folks want to check that out more in depth, they can see the talk that you gave them the last KubeCon. But I think that's a really good reminder for everybody. So anyway, we'll have to see what Savitha says from wherever she is about the points that we've talked about. Yeah. But Divya, is always an absolute pleasure. Is there any final message you'd like to leave with the folks that are going to be watching this?
Yeah, I would just like to say that when you get started off on any journey, it doesn't need to be in the cloud native ecosystem. There's a lot of advice that will get flung your way. A lot of people will say do this, a lot of people will say do that. And a third section of people will say don't do both of these things, do a third thing. There are going to be a lot of opinions that come your way. Don't follow any one of them and stick to them like it's the holy book for your career or your development or your journey in that ecosystem. Do what feels right. Experiment with things. Look at all the sides of the coin and then take a decision, because it's very easy to get pulled in either direction and not know where you're heading. Like, for example, if I can just take an example from my own journey. I was very influenced by the cloud ecosystem before, and I wanted to learn a lot about the various types of cloud providers and the offerings that they had within each cloud provider. And then I drilled down into AWS, and then suddenly I realized that, hey, no, I actually am, not going to use any of this. So why am I actually learning any of this? But the thing is that rerouted me to a completely different path, which is the cloud native ecosystem. And the way I reached there was because I realized that was something that I wanted to do because it was a part of my job. And that took introspection, because I could learn things for the sake of it. I'm not saying you should not, but figure out what's important to you at that given point in time, because people are going to give you a lot of opinions and a lot of viewpoints are going to be thrown your way. It's on you to decide what is right for you at a given point. Even if you're starting out, do your own research. Read up on Google. Listen to everybody, but do what works for you. Because if you take one or the other way, and then suddenly stuff doesn't work out, you basically are following the herd and not reaching anywhere at that point. So do what works for you, because at the end of the day, your path is going to be unique in whatever career, whatever ecosystem you're a part of, in whatever journey you're a part of. Your journey is going to be extremely unique and it's going to be specific to you. So take decisions for yourself rather than being influenced and following the herd. I know that sounded really wrong, but I
No,
don't
not at
know.
all. I think in order to do that is first ask yourself, questions about what are the things that I'm interested in, what are my values, and based on those things, that will help you as a guide to have a better idea about what's really going to work best. And like you said, don't feel pressure that you have to just copy and paste what somebody else has done, because that's great that it worked for them. Does not mean that's going to work for you at all. And I think it's important that anyone who's in a position of trying to provide guidance or mentoring can say, look, this is only my perception based on my experience. I would say this, but I can't say that's the magic formula or answer that's going to work perfectly for you. So I think that's good.
Exactly.
That's good. That's great. Just as we show empathy to others, we also have to show empathy to ourselves. So I think that's anyway. As always, wonderful conversation with you, Divya. And let's see what Savitha has to say about all these things. I assume she will agree about some things, but she will have other. Just as we just said, she's had her own experience doing the things that she's done and working the places where she's worked. So it'll be interesting to see the different things that she might have. Like I said, different experiences, different interactions, and that's once again is that this community is greater than the sum of all of its parts. The amount of just different experiences and all the things we've been talking about. So I think that's wonderful. You are pretty easy to find, but if people don't know where to find you, where can they find you?
Very active with Twitter, but it's a delicate balance of shit posting and text. So be forewarned that you're not going to find entirely tech content on my timeline. So you can find me on Twitter at Divya_Mohan02. I'm also there on LinkedIn. That's just Divya Mohan, so you can just find me. If you're already on Bart's list, I'm very easy to find. You just need to
very easy. Very easy. Also, CNCF Slack, Kubernetes Slack, you're everywhere.
Yeah. So I am pretty much available on both the Slacks almost all the time. So feel free to bring me there. I'm there as Divya Mohan again. The GitHub ID, I don't think I need to provide here. So in case anybody wants it, it's Divya-Mohan0209.
Perfect. Well, Divya, as always, an absolute pleasure, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Yes, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.